Hey guys, welcome back to Dislyte. In today's video, I decided to do a free-to-play tier list of all the free-to-play units in the game. I'm having a lot of fun on my free-to-play account. We are now farming Chronos B10 at about a 60 to 70% success rate. So once I get that closer to 90%, I will give you guys a video on the Chronos team, the stats and all that stuff. But I do aim to progress through the entire game with just free-to-play units. So I want to do a tier list of these free-to-play units. Now, as always with tier lists, take it with a grain of salt. There's that many aspects to the game. I'll do my best to explain my decisions, but if something rates low on this list, doesn't mean they won't have a use in the future or anything like that. There's a few units that I'm going to rate low on the list at the moment that I think eventually will find a really strong niche use in some PvP teams and stuff like that, but we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, disclaimers out of the way. Don't get salty at me. Happy days. Let's go. The other thing is we are including Li Ling and Wukong in this list, even though they're not completely free to play. They are the two that you can obtain through the pity at your beginner banner pity. So I'm going to include both of them in this list. We then have a few other 4 stars that we get free to play and 5 stars that we get free to play, and I'll explain them when we do go through them. But anyway, let's get into it. Kicking off with the number 1, which is a boulder. I can't remember, and I apologize. Sometimes I may say the person name, sometimes I may say the god name. I can't help it. I just go with whatever is the easiest for me to remember. So, boulder, this guy. He goes straight to D tier. Basically, he has a defense buff. He has this revenge thing. It's not that strong. He has a taunt. It's just, when you use him, like, sometimes you might use him in your day 1 when you don't pull anything else with defense buff and you want a defense buff, but that's about it. Like, the guy just doesn't quite hold up. And maybe someday you could do like a big crit damage defense based build and he does something. I don't know. At this stage, I rate him D. Happy to be wrong in the future. Next up, we have Gobbleguts. Can't remember his name at all. I think it's like Liao, something like that. Honestly, this guy, if you're looking just at PvP, he'd be like close to S+ tier if you want to run speed cleave as a free-to-play player, because he does have a speed leader skill for the arena, which gives your team 20% speed. Now that does match up with old mate, what's his name, like Long Mane, whatever his name is, the dude that freezes everyone, the 4-star. So that does match his speed boost. However, this one is only usable in PvP, and I actually don't mind him because I have been using him as a speed leader in PvP. He can gobble up a unit, and from my testing, that gobble up, his ultimate ability, he like encloses an enemy. I don't think it goes to an accuracy resistance check. If they're immune, if they have immunity, it won't work. But if they don't have immunity, I've never seen it miss. So not a bad reliable sort of CC to accommodate, just to, you know, complement the fact that some people may use him as a speed leader. But literally outside of that, ain't going to be too much usage that I can see yet. Once again, happy to be wrong. Next up, we do have Melanie, or Medusa. Now, she goes into the A tier for me. Another really handy thing about her, she has a 15% speed lead, which is going to be nice in arena as well. She brings more utility than him, but also her speed leader of 15% is usable everywhere, which is nice. On top of that, she has a speed slow for bosses. She has a massive AP reduction with both her abilities, and with her passive, she can petrify enemies after she attacks them if they're below 30 AP, and she's just really amazing at what she does. I absolutely loved her on the soft launch. I'm building mine at the moment on my global server. I just absolutely love her, plus her design is incredibly wicked. Next up, we do have, I cannot remember this girl's name. You know, I'm going to go scroll for her in the game to find out her name, because I always forget it. It's Lauren. I always knew it was like a common name, but I always forget it. So she's going to go into B tier for me. She does have a revive, which is really nice. The other thing with her, I feel like honestly later in the game, I may rank her higher, because she has the ability to grant extra turns to herself. And once we start accumulating the set that, you know, gives you a chance to reduce your cooldowns at the start of each turn, those additional turn abilities can start to snowball really quickly if you get some lucky procs. So I actually think she could be really good, but I haven't been able to use her that well yet. So she has heals, she has revive, she has a speed slow on her skill 1, but it's a very low accuracy activation rate, but I'm definitely keen on testing her in some unique PvP formations and stuff like that. I think she could have some more uses and like be like very nichely in a high tier for certain situations. But in broad, I just want to put her in B tier. She doesn't really shine too much, but she's not horrible, and I do think she does have potential. Next up, we have Leon. Now, Leon is going into B tier. Leon's an interesting one because I feel like for speed Chronos teams, he's going to be a pretty important part. He does have the seer application. Also, he is a heal blocker as well, which is, if you're free to play and you're trying to get through the water dungeon and it keeps healing itself and it takes you like 10 minutes to do a run, it's quite valuable. But all around, I think he can do some really nice damage and pretty much just there because he's not trash, but I think he's going to have some decent use in Chronos teams. I could be wrong and he could drop down, but I'm going to place him in there. Next up, we have Charmers. Now, I don't know how to say it. I feel like Americans say it way different to me, but he's going to go into this tier. Some pretty decent single target damage, sacrifices his own HP, which can come at a detriment, but can be a really decent single target nuker as well. So he's going to go into B tier. Fenrir, what's his name? He's got a really... Freddy, that's it. Freddy. How did I forget Freddy? Freddy's one of those units, like, I really like Freddy. I just like the style of kit that he has with, you know, not invincibility, but what do they call it? Standoff with the attack buff, into some nice damage, reducing his health, getting more damage. He's just got a really cool kit, but I feel like he's just outclassed as a damage dealer in general. So he falls into that category again of being, you know, decent, but just not crazy good and not crazy bad either. And you'll see that B tier I'll probably fill up a lot because, you know, I sort of fill the B tier up a lot. Next up, we have Layla. Now, Layla, I'm going to put in D tier. So, Layla's an interesting one for me. The one place you think you may get a use is in APEP for the cleanse, for the reflecting of debuffs, but there's just better options. I just don't think it's quite worth it. You know, you've got to... It's like, do you allow your team to get debuffs so that you can put them back onto the enemy, and then if the timing's wrong, it's no good. Otherwise, you know, you've got a stun on skill 1, which doesn't really have an effect. You've got AoE poison on skill 3, except it attacks 2 times, which isn't good for APEP. So I just feel like, you know, the kit looks like he could be decent in some places, but it just... I don't see it. So... He's going into D tier with me. I always hate putting things in D tier because I know people will get really sad at me. So that is that. Now Q. Q is a very interesting one for me because I feel like with Q's kit, I'm going to put him in C tier. He could go up to B tier. And I know Q's a bit of a meme. I'm not a fan of the design of the character at all. But you've got a defense break on skill 1, a 2-turn cooldown AoE attack break on skill 2, and this link that can create some massive damage. Now, I think with his link ability... Depending, I'm assuming, this is my assumption, I have nothing to go on it by except for Summoner's War has 3v3 Guild Wars. If they do 3v3 Guild Wars, I feel like Q's link could be a huge thing for some comps. Like his link with like a big single target or one of those random target damage dealers, something like a Chloe. I feel like you could get something good happening, I don't know. But at the moment, his kit seems nice. I just can't squeeze him into a team. He just doesn't seem to fit into any teams that I want to go into. So if we had a 6th slot, I feel like he'd slot nicely into some teams, but you know, he just isn't at the moment for me. So he is going to stick there. Next up is going to be Zelma Sekhmet. Now she goes there too. Similar to those other damage dealers in this tier, like they're okay. Like her for Fafnir, good. More debuffs, more damage, that sort of thing. You got a defense break as well. But yeah, just outclassed. I'm not gonna say too much on B tiers because I just don't know what to say about B tiers. Okay, moving on to, I know I say this line wrong because people tell me, but hey, Yeshua. She's the thick shoe. Let's call her the thick shoe from now on. She is going into S tier, attack buff and defense buff on a 3-turn cooldown. Skill 2 is a heal with an invincibility. Skill 1 has an attack break. She has everything a free-to-play player could want. She's absolutely amazing. The one issue with her, where she goes into D tier, is that she's freaking impossible to get, guys. I am on my free-to-play account. I've seen about 15 of her pop, and I've clicked them within like 5 seconds, and I keep missing out. I cannot finish her. I'm at 20 pieces. You need 30. It is the most frustrating thing in the world for free-to-play players. It is so enraging. I've got her on my main account, but I want to use her on my free-to-play account. and I just can't get her. But she's an absolute beast. Fantastic. I feel like she'll fall off in the future, like once you get better sets and stuff, because she won't be like, you know, helping out in speed teams as much, because you stop caring about that defensive sort of aspect of the game, being the attack break, the invincibility, the defense buff. The other thing is she's a bit funny because most people are going to take Gabriel into most content, and you know, I consider Gabriel to be better. And so, like, you can bring both of them, though, and hopefully they don't overlap their defense buffs. And if you get them cycling through, like on manual especially, where you alternate defense buffs, that's really strong. But sometimes on auto, they can be annoying together. But all in all, Yeshua, like, the thick shoe is amazing. Like, it is a good kit for a 3-star. Cannot complain about that kit at all. Next up, we have the man with the stick that keeps belting you with it infinitely. Tangyun. I suck at these names, guys. So bad. This dude's a beast. Just never wants to stop attacking and stunning you is pretty much what he does. He does big damage and keeps dealing it and just keeps following through. He's really frustrating. I can see some fun, like, I can see some good RNG memes on him about him just like infinitely attacking enemies. He's an absolute beast. Great for Fafnir. I think once again, if they do 3v3 in guild battles, he's going to be absolutely godly there. And yes, I'm hedging a lot of bets on characters in 3v3 Guild Wars, but we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see how they do it. Maybe they don't copy something off of someone as well. But hey, who knows? Who knows? We will wait and see. Next up, we have bestowed. Now, I'm going to creep her up into A tier. I think she's a fantastic support. Now, I do think she falls off later in the game. She's going to be amazing for Fafnir all the time. Just like she's got the multi-hits, the shield, the recovery. She's just all around a great unit. She just has that sort of kit that just like, she brings the defense break as well. Like, I just think she's got enough that makes her really strong. And the shield, if you get her tanky enough, fast enough with the shield and the recovery, you can run her with as a support with a burst healer, and she can be good in all content. But like I said, once you pull some of those 4-star, 5-star units, she will fall off. But as a free-to-play unit, I'm going to put her in the A tier. Moving on from that, next up we do have Drew. Now, Drew is going to go into A tier for me. Now, Drew's a funny one, because if we were including every unit in the game, he'd probably go down to that B tier. But because he's like the prime option for free-to-play players, if you don't have another damage dealing option for moving into your first Chronos team, he is fantastic for it. He's amazing at clearing waves as well with his third skill. Has that armor break on a 2-turn cooldown, which is really strong and some really nice damage. I love Drew. I've got him 6-star on my free-to-play account. He's an absolute beast. But yes, there are a lot better like 4-5-star options. But I mean, for free-to-play, as a safe option to build, like just everyone that if you don't pull a good unit, you've got Drew and you can rest on Drew and know that you'll be fine. I think he's absolutely fantastic for it. So that is going to be Drew. Next up, we have Snake Lady. Now, I cannot remember Snake Lady's name for the life of me, but Snake Lady is going to go into the C tier. Now, I'm curious. She's got Seer. She's got the, I think she's got the slow. Like, let me pull her up in the game. Liuli. Man, I have no idea. But no, she's got the silence. So she's got the silence. She's got the random target sear, which also strips. And then she's got like the cleanse and the little heal every turn in a passive. I feel like she could be good. I haven't pulled her on my free-to-play account. I want to test her on that account. I'm putting her in C. I just don't see where she would slot into a team. To bring that kit, which sounds okay, you're going to have to get rid of something that has more of a kit. So even though it sounds like an all right set of skills, I just don't see how you slot, kind of like Q, I just don't see how you slot her into a team. So she's going to go into C, but I definitely will test her out in the future. She's the one shimmer that I don't have on my free-to-play account. And yes, I am including obviously I'll say it now, the 3-star shimmers in this list. They're not completely farmable, the easiest to get, but eventually, you know, hopefully you can get them after a bunch of summons, but I'm still missing her. So, you know, these things happen. We'll wait and see. Next up, my man, Unky Chai. I love Unky Chai. I'm doing a lot of experiments. At the moment, I'm just putting it in B because I'm not too sure. I think there could be some really cool cycling teams where you use like even like 4-man teams for speed runs to try and optimize the chance of getting those cooldown reductions with him. I think he's really cool. I've got him max skilled on both my accounts, but don't really use him. He's one of those ones where you only need 2 skill ups in him. You need his 3rd skill skilled up twice, and that's all you need. So I can't resist the roll of the dice to try and just do 2 skill ups and get it. On one account, I used 4 skill ups. On one account, I used 3. So, you know, Unky Chai is my man. I love Unky Chai. I think he's a beast. He could go up this list once I do more testing. At the moment, I'm just leaving him B because I'm honestly just not 100% sure, but I definitely love the dude and love his kit. Moving on from that, for those that look down here, you are pay to win. These are pay to win characters. If you're using any of these characters, you do not get the free to play badge. You do not get the honor of being the free to play person. Just for reference, I hate the whole free to play, like you have to be free to play, you spend. No, I hate that stuff. If you want to spend and you enjoy spending, spend. I'm just doing the free to play thing because I'm doing it to just a challenge because it's fun. Anyway, moving on from that, probably offended someone. Okay, Chang Pu, the Pui Chang. She goes into S tier. I honestly, Chang Pu would sit between A and S for me. I honestly think she's a little bit overrated. I kind of want to put her in A tier. No, because she's better than Drew. So she sits in between. I think she's a little bit overrated. Now, this may be a controversial comment. I've got mine max skilled. She's the first 3-star that I max skilled. She's fantastic in the early game. Like you get you get the AoE heal, except it's pretty weak with the immunity, which is nice. You got the second skill, which is a nice big heal, and then you got a potential AP reduce on the first skill. Now, the problem that I have with her is that her heal scales off attack. If her heal scaled off of HP or something, it would be fantastic. Because you don't really want to 6-star her, it's really hard to get her stats high enough so that she heals well, but also, survives. So she's a bit interesting. Her AI is a bit frustrating to me. Sometimes your whole team will be down like 10% and she'll use a single target heal. It's like just use your AoE and top everyone off. And then at other times you'll have one hero that's like, at about 50% health, everyone else is at 95 and she'll use the AoE heal. So I have a love-hate relationship with Chang Pu. Manual, you can play her really well. Auto, she just destroys my life and crushes my soul so many times. And I know that, you've got a 2-turn cooldown on the second skill and a 3-turn cooldown on the third skill. But if she messes up which one she uses, then you've got to go through the other one. And it's just like, it's like an annoying cycle to get through to it. But she's still amazing. She's still amazing. Don't get me wrong there. I just think everyone speaks like she's God tier. I just think she sits there between A and S tier, personally, in my opinion. Even though, like, first healer, she's definitely the first one that I skill up in the game. Just because, early on, you need that stuff. Moving on from that, we have good old drummer chick. She's going to sit here in the B tier. What's her name? It always procs the dungeon. The I call it, I read it as Jean. I think it's Jean. Whichever way it goes. That's her. To me, like, when you're looking at free-to-play units, you've got Melanie, who to me just outclasses her in general. So that's why she's in B tier. She's not bad. She's got good control. It's not too bad. She's got the AoE, the 3-target stun. She's just a stunning beast. But give me her against Melanie any day, and I'm choosing Melanie. So that's why she sits in B tier. But she's not horrible. Like, definitely one of those units, when you start an account and you may have pulled her in your first temple, like you'd slot her in and she can help you out. Definitely not a horrible unit, but just, sitting in B tier. Okay, moving on from that, we have Bryn. Now, Bryn is what just happened there? That dropped. Let's go. Let's scroll down. There we go. Now it all looks fresh. I'm going to put her in D tier. Now, Bryn is very similar. Maybe we put her in C tier. I feel like it's a bit of an insult. But so her kit seems like it has so much. So she has a slow on skill 1. She has an attack buff on skill 2, and she has a defense break on skill 3. I mean, those are 3 very important things to bring into teams. However, I just think she's outclassed in every aspect of what she does. Her slow has a very low activation rate. As for the attack buff, like if you look at her purely as an attack buffer, because we can all get Dahlia, she also gauge boosts and crit rate buffs. And then when you look at her third skill where and then she also slows. So Dahlia is just sort of like an outclassing version of Brynn. Now, Brynn does bring the defense break as well. However, if you build your team properly, you'll have, you know, probably at least 1 or 2 other defense breakers, so you don't need to bring that. So just the way that all the other characters fall, it's sort of like Brynn just gets put into nothingness of like no one uses her. Maybe I'll be kind and put her into C tier. Yeah, let's do that, because she's kind of cool. She got like a guitar that she breaks into two and, you know, chops people with it. Moving on from that, we have David or Jason. I don't know which one is which. I don't know which one's the god name? I got to scroll to this guy. David is his name. Jason is the god name. I'm not across the Jason. But, you know, David, this guy, he goes straight to D tier because he triggers me so hard, because he's the only, like literally the only Ripple dungeon that I ever see, and I want to burn him. So he goes straight to D tier. But really, his kit, like his passive, he has to be under control effects to proc the taunt. If his passive didn't require him to be under control effects and he just randomly taunts people, he would be really cool. I would like to build him, but because I'm pretty sure it's conditional. Let me read this skill actually. If Jason is disabled from taking action before his turn, then he'll dispel the debuff from himself and taunt an enemy. I haven't tested him. It reads like he has to have the debuff, but even so, you know, he's got the attack break. He does have the stun. Maybe Guild Wars. I'm going to say maybe Guild Wars for him, but you know, he just triggers me because he's the only one I ever see in the proc in the ripples, and he just does my head in. I've spent way too much time looking at general chat. It's killing me. Okay, moving on from that, we have Hal. I'm going to put him in C tier. He's one of those units. He's got attack break. He's got defense break. He attacks with allies and poisons. I feel like he should be good. It's just one of those ones of trying to slot him in a team. It just feels like this in other games that I've played where poisons are more dominant, and like early on you can't use attackers in like level 10 of dungeons because if you have something built with attack, they're just not tanky enough, they instantly die. This game isn't like that. This game is to a point where you can bring attackers in the first team that you ever build and you will be able to clear level 10 of Chronos. So because of that factor, I think he gets dropped off, whereas if the game was harder, I think he would be really strong. So that's why he's going in C tier. I just don't think he's needed. Moving on, we have Helena. Now, Helena is an interesting one because Helena is a meme of the community. Everyone hates Helena. I'm actually on the charge trying to represent the Helena squad and bring her up the ranks. I do it more for the memes, but on my main account, I've got her max skilled and I continue to use her in every piece of content. More so just to stick it to the memes. But can we just, like, when we look at free-to-play units, you have one healer and that's Changpu. So, this is an interesting one for me. So if we look at Changpu, Changpu can heal one ally for a lot and one ally and the rest of her allies for a little bit. Helena does the same thing, but in one skill. So once you've done that, so it's like, I hate talking about this because I know I'm going to get people to be like, no, Helena's shit. Shut up for a sec. So she does the same thing as Changpu's. She does Changpu's two heals in one. Like, Helena can top someone off from like 5% HP and fully heal them. I don't know if there's a bug in the description. I use her. If someone is like 5-10% HP, she will top them off for me. I don't know why. It's not how it reads, but she does heal for a lot. Okay, what's Changpu? What else does Changpu have in her kit? So Changpu has a small heal and a big heal. She has that in one. Changpu has a turn gauge reduction. Helena also has that, but it's on her skill 2 and it hits twice. So, you know, it sort of makes up that where they even out if Changpu was using it every turn, but Changpu can't use hers as much because her heals are split up into 2, which means she's alternating. So then it comes down to what else do their kits have? And it becomes that Changpu has immunity, which yes, immunity is super clutch. But you also do have immunity if you are bringing Gabrielle. So, but definitely having 2 immunities is nice. And so basically the way I see the Helena versus Changpu trade-off is that Changpu brings immunity. Like, they bring the same kit essentially. Changpu brings immunity, whereas Helena brings a dispel and a crit buff. And that's what I see the difference. And the way everyone says that Helena is dog shit and Changpu is the god of all free-to-play units, that's where I see a bit of a discrepancy. Like, they are essentially, they bring the exact same stuff, except Changpu has immunity, she has crit buff and a dispel. That's how I see it. Now, please leave the hate in the comments now. I've said my part. You guys say yours. I'm curious to see what you guys think. I think once I sort of butter people up to this concept, you know, eventually I may even bring her up into the B tier. But, you know, I don't want to get too much hate, so we're going to leave her there. Moving on past that, we have Mona. Now, Mona's another one that is going to slot into that B tier. Reason being, you just, like, especially once we get into the free-to-play 5 stars that we can get, she just simply gets outclassed. She's a good farmer. Past that, she's got a sick design. I love bows, but yeah, she's gonna sit there in the B tier. Next up, we have Fabrice. Now, I'm gonna put him up there in the A tier. He's an interesting one. I really think he's going to have a lot of strong uses with his skill too, where he fills the gauge of an ally and buffs their attack. I feel like there's some really heavy nuking options that you can do with something like that. Plus, he has immunity and invincibility. I feel like in manual play PvP, he's going to be incredibly strong, and that's why I'm putting him in the A tier. I just think his kit is really suited to manual play PvP, and I think he could be an absolute beast in there. So he's going in A tier. Obviously, he is farmable because we can get him from the fusion, and you can fuse him as many times as you want. That's another cool thing. You can, you know, fuse him a bunch of times if you want to just get those. Well, you want two things. By fusing him a bunch, you're getting the extra Starions, but you're also getting his resonance up. Next up, we have Lyn. Now, Lyn is an interesting one for me. I'm going to put her in B tier. She's sort of another one of those damage dealers. She's a Fafnir specialist. That's about it that I can really see from her. I haven't used her much. I haven't built her yet, but just reading her skills, that's where I would put her. We get her after 5 days of login when you can complete all those beginner missions. That's why she is in here. Now, next up, we have Dahlia. Now, Dahlia is one that I really want to put up into S tier. I love Dahlia, but I'm also aware of the fact that, you know, she's not the most loved. I feel like she fits between A and S tier very well. I feel like Yeshua is better in the early game, and in the later game, I think that's when we will see her really shine. You know what? I really want to do it. I really want to do it. I'm a big fan. Screw it. It's happening. It's happening, guys. So Dahlia. The thing about Dahlia is, so Yeshua's got attack buff, defense break. Attack buff and defense buff, and the heal with invincibility. I feel like once we get into speed team, realm, you want to be moving fast. You want the enemy to be moving slow, and you want to be dealing lots of damage. And Dahlia brings the turn gauge boost. She brings the attack buff and the crit rate buff, which may not seem like much, but it allows you to, you know, gear for more crit damage than crit rate. And she also brings a speed slow for the boss on a 2-turn cooldown. So she's just got an amazing kit for like speed runs and late game. Also for free to play arena, having a fast turn gauge booster. She's got a really fast base speed around 106 or 104, but then she gets 10 more with awakening. So ascending, sorry. So I think she is definitely up there for me personally. I know other people don't see her as strong, but I think she's just going to continue to get better over time. And then she will like just pass Yeshua, and you won't really need her. And like, then your go-to will be Dahlia. I see that happening. I could be wrong, but I'm putting her in S tier because, you know, I'm a fan. I'm a big fan. Next up, we have Li Ling. Now, Li Ling, I want to put between S tier and S plus tier. I'm going to put him in S tier for now. He's the best option to go for in my mind from the reroll if you're getting to the pity. He's a great farmer. He's great for Chronos. Has the AoE turn gauge. He has turn gauge stealing with an AoE. He's got a really strong single target attack, and those two attacks both have additional damage that ignores defense based on enemies' max HP, which brings really strong damage. He's a really strong damage dealer, but you'll get why he's in S tier in a minute. But yes, still a really strong unit. Next up, we have Wukong. Now, Wukong's going into A tier. Now, Wukong, I think, is a really strong unit in his... People got triggered at me when I said, is Wukong a girl? I figured it out. Wukong in the first closed beta was a girl, but then changed to a guy. That's why I was getting confused. I looked at an old photo that I had from the closed beta. You can probably see it in my old video, my first ever Dislyte video if you go to the playlist. Wukong was a girl. So that's why I'd been so confused in this game. Anyway, that's a side topic. But Wukong definitely gets into A tier. You've got a really strong, like, it's a strong kit. The big problem with Wukong is, like, the usability, like, as a free-to-play player, if you pick Wukong up from your pity, and then you 6-star Wukong, you're sort of slowing your progression because you can't really use Wukong too well. Like, I'm tipping you can use it in Chronos, but he's going to slow your progression compared to if you got Li Ling. But having the AoE, defense break, heal block and stuff like that, and then on top of that, the basic attack, which will attack other enemies, really good at debuffing multiple enemies. Now, I still leave Li Ling up top because for free-to-play, Li Ling gets your whole account kickstarted. And I feel like that's why he belongs in S tier and Wukong belongs in A tier. Could be wrong. Once again, let me know what you think. Moving on to the final 2 units, both 5 stars. The next one is Lucas, who we do get from the tower. When you complete the tower, everyone will get this guy. And this guy is an absolute savage. I feel like he just outclasses Li Ling. I feel like if you build him on a damage build with lifesteal, he's going to do better farming because he has 2 AoEs. His third skill is going to remove buffs from the enemies. It's going to attack multiple times, removing buffs and also reducing their turn gauge. His second skill is an AoE stun with 100% activation rate, and his first skill is I think it's attacks 3 times, I could be wrong, 2 or 3 times, and steals turn gauge off the enemies. He is an absolute beast. Double AoEs, both with control, one of them with a strip. He has stealing capacity of turn gauge on single targets, which can really manipulate things. He's going to be a beast in, like, a lot of the content that you don't think about at the start of the game, but Cube gets really hard, Tower gets really hard, and he's going to be an absolute god in both of them. And like I said, if you build him, and for those 2 formats, I would build him tanky and fast with high accuracy. But then if you want to build him as a damage dealer and a farmer, he can do that. I think he can be really strong in Chronos as well. So he's just an absolute beast. Plus, he's got a sick looking bow. If you haven't seen his animations, go to him and click on him. He's got sick animations. And then obviously the final unit that we do have is Gabrielle. She is going straight into that S+ tier as well. Her kit's just amazing. It speaks for itself. Like, honestly, the fact that her basic attack has nothing on it and she's still that good. Can you imagine if they gave her a good basic attack debuff or something like that? But AoE defense break on hers a 3-turn cooldown, I believe it is. Let me go in and check her cooldowns because I'm curious now. Let's go. I can't remember. I use her all the time. AoE defense break on a 3-turn cooldown, and then AoE defense up with immunity with attack break for the enemies on a 4-turn cooldown. She's just an absolute beast. Build her tanky, build her super fast so she can keep cycling through, and you're pretty much set. She completely changes the game when you get her fusion, and for free to play, she is definitely the top tier. So let me know what you guys think. That was a long ass video. I did a lot of explaining, so I apologize about that, but yeah. Curious to see what you guys think. Just drill me in the comments. It's all good. It's all good. That is my opinion. Keen to see yours. Thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.